Hey guys, JD from Best MMA Picks here. Just gonna do a quick and dirty live Google Hangouts, and this one is titled "How to Fix a Fight," and this is based off of the results from the Bellator 149 Shamrock versus Gracie card. I watched about half of these fights. I did not handicap any of them. I did play some of them. But as we all know, or some of us know, with these Bellator cards, historically speaking, in the last 2 years, there have been a lot of funny happenings and weird things that have gone on or taken place. And I think tonight would probably be a pretty good example of what of that. um, I was tweeting about it before the card started that I just had a gut feeling that there's going to be some funny things happening in a couple of these fights, and a lot of the things that we thought were going to happen really didn't happen. There were some rumors floating around about fight fixing that was happening for the Dada 5000 fight versus Kimbo Slice. There's a lot of weird money coming in on Dada 5000, which turned out to be completely false, as he was TKO'd due to physical exhaustion in the third round. A lot of really funny odds on that card. The over 1.5 rounds was at a positive 400. The under 1.5 was a negative like 550. And it ended up going over rather easily. Probably could have actually gone to the distance, but both those fighters were very exhausted, and it was worth kind of a play on the over. But a lot of weird stuff happened. Melvin Gillard, for example, got TKO'd, which I don't think a lot of people saw that one coming. There was a lot of people that I saw on Twitter that had him in parlays. But perhaps the most controversial thing that happened on this entire card was, in fact, Royce Gracie versus Ken Shamrock, kind of the grudge rubber match between the two of them, in the trilogy of their fights that they've had, which, as we all know, Ken Shamrock has had a history with WWF in the past. And if you look at the fight, I'm going to try to find it here on YouTube, see if I can get you guys a screen share, do a little replay. Might be kind of fun to do. But we'll just go ahead and do a little screen share, little replay here. Shit. I had it up on my screen just a second ago, and I do not know where. Oh, I know where we're gonna go here. We're gonna go to bjpenn.com. That's the last place that I saw a good replay of this. Hide that. Oh, here we go. This is exactly what we're looking for. bjpenn.com replay of this shit, because I want y'all to see this. It was pretty ridiculous how this happened, and I would not be surprised if Ken Shamrock was in on a fix here. And I'm getting tired of people that are fucking telling me that sports aren't fixed, because this shit happens all the time, and people somehow come up with excuses for these fighters on how they were sick or had the flu, or, well, he wouldn't throw a fight because, the organization would investigate it and the feds would investigate it and blah, 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 blah. And, and they couldn't be in on any of that because, that'd be too hard to do. Well, this kind of stuff happens all the time, especially with syndicate groups and overseas mainly. But, we do see it here occasionally in the United States. It's just a lot harder. There's a lot more checks and balances, I think, within our, organizations, NC2A, and I don't know about the UFC, but Bellator definitely. Scott Coker, there's some funny things going on there that probably need to be investigated. But, Let's just see if we can get a replay here. I mean, he's not even really hitting him that hard. And he was clearly conscious. Let's just take a look at that one more time. It didn't even look like he was really hitting him. Like it was just barely grazing the side of his cheek there. He wasn't making full contact hammer fist. If you look back on that replay, he, check it out again. If you're actually wanting to do damage here, you're going to be hammer fisting the shit out of him with a full 180-degree angle there. He was going straight down, barely grazing his face, obviously not trying to hurt him. And I'm not saying Gracie was in on anything there. I don't think he was at all. I just think that it was prematurely stopped. And I think that, not to take anything away from Royce Gracie, but he got Shamrock down rather easily. And this fight ended really quick. I mean, he's literally just turtling up there, not even trying to intelligently defend himself or get out of that hold. Granted, Gracie's like what, a 4th degree or 5th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, I mean, he's legit as far as being able to tie guys up. But, I mean, this whole match was definitely, there's so many people that were on Shamrock. I'm surprised that people wouldn't want to put money on Gracie, given that he's got so many, elite ground skills that he could dominate with. And I mean, he's basically got Shamrock's number, but it didn't even last long at all. I mean, this was something that was, I don't know. I just think that it was really fishy. And I really believe that this was fixed. I believe that, I don't know about the Kimbo fight. There was a lot of heavy line movement going on the day before the fight. Like a group of guys had put I don't know how much money on Dada 5,000, but it moved the line quite a bit in the opposite direction, and it almost became a pick'em. And then Kimbo went back again to around negative 170 to 200 ish, depending on the book that you went through. But yeah, that was kind of fishy as well. And then there was a lot of weird refereeing that was going on. If you look back on the fight with Big John McCarthy and Kimbo and Dada, there was definitely, he was standing the fight up really quick. I mean, they'd be on the ground kind of just laying on each other for like 30 or so seconds, and he'd stand right back up immediately, which I thought was a little funny. So yeah, those are just little things there that I noticed about these fights that maybe some other people noticed. I don't have any information on any of this. I'm not really, I don't follow Bellator all that well. I follow fighters that are coming out of Bellator into the UFC, but I really could care less about Bellator. I feel like it's such a small organization and, little to no accountability there. I believe that they could have some fixing going on there for sure. It's not quite the organization that UFC is, obviously. And they're trying to, I don't know what they were trying to do with this card, but it was pretty ridiculous. I think a lot of people would agree with me there that, there's some funny things happening and it's kind of out of hand. It really didn't do much for the sport at all, especially being televised. It really kind of brought UFC down a little bit, or just MMA in general. Benson Henderson moving over to Bellator. I mean, if that's what he's moving over for, I don't really know that that's going to be a good move for him. I'm very concerned there. It was really cool to see Gracie fight again. I mean, it's definitely WWE-ish. It's like turning into a WWE thing and not like real fighting at all. And I mean, I'm just surprised that sports books would open lines up for something like that. It was rather staged and rather scripted. And when Shamrock got back up off the ground, it was kind of like he wasn't really even that disappointed. I would have been irate, yelling at the referee. He definitely had a poor acting job going for him there if he was, trying to act at all, because he didn't really even seem that disappointed, to be honest. But yeah, if anybody's going to throw a fight and who they'd want to do something like that, it'd be somebody who had acting abilities already, like Shamrock, who has had that experience before. And it just, when he got on the mic, he just seemed really fake to me. I don't know if anybody else caught onto that, but I really feel like he wasn't. It was really fake and just really bad acting, really poor acting. And I'm just wondering how much money's in his bank account right now from all this. So I just wanted to kind of talk about it, see what your thoughts were. I'm going to get trolls, obviously, that are going to call me out and be like, hey, they didn't fix that or whatever. And well, why don't you tell me why you don't think that exactly? Give me some details, give me some proof, shoot me some links on chat below or on my comments, and tell me why it is that you don't think that this happens, and give me some solid facts and reasoning behind that, of why you think that these are all real fights and that there's never any fixing that happens. I would like to hear it. Please do. Please do show me, what you have. Because as far as I'm concerned, I think that these organizations, not necessarily the organizations, but I think that there's a lot of issues with accountability there with the fighters. They don't make enough money. And so who's to say that somebody's not going to write somebody a check, that obviously the UFC is not going to be paying, to support, these fighters. If they're not paying these fighters well enough, who's to say that some guy down the street, wants to win some money in Vegas, or at a sports book, and, offers to write a nice check to somebody, after they put down a couple $100,000 on a fight. It's one of those things where, if you have the money to do it, or if you don't have the money for that matter, somebody's going to be paying, somebody out for something like this. And I just don't think these fighters make enough money to be able to say no to something like that. I mean, a lot of them would, and maybe even a lot of them would report something like that, but maybe they wouldn't if somebody was actually threatening their life over something like that. So it's just kind of one of those things. I've never been personally involved with anything like that, but I have heard of things like that. And I just think it's really interesting because it seems to be happening a lot, especially the last 2 years, with just weird finishes and weird, TKOs, injuries, and just a lot of fluky type stuff that's been happening in MMA that really has me a little bit concerned. Definitely becomes difficult to handicap fights in that manner when you're trying to dodge bullets from weird stuff that could happen. I mean, I virtually went on this card just on a fun bets. I virtually went almost 0-5, to be honest, and then I got my Gracies at the end, but doubled down on Gracie to get me back to where I was, and nobody was really. I mean, there were a few people on Gracie, but most people thought that Shamrock was going to be the one to pull this one off, and Gracie pulled it off pretty much with ease. So anyway, just wanted to know what your guys' thoughts were there. I'm kind of rambling. I'm a little tired. I went and had pizza with my kids. And so, yeah, just want to know what your thoughts are on this. I think this could be one of the most blatant fixes in, MMA history, to be honest. It was rather horrible as far as acting is concerned. If it, it just looked really bad. And, yeah, just want to know what people think here. Leave me some comments below. Thanks for tuning in.